And he's pedal to the metal. Go, go, go!
Good evening, everyone. Not sure what my hair's doing, but good evening and welcome along to PSGL. We are here tonight for PSF2. It is season number 33. It is round 4 of the championship as we take in the Austrian Grand Prix from, of course, the Red Bull Ring. My name is James Head. I'm delighted to be taking to the stream, of course, as always, and literally at the strike of a bell, joining me in the commentary box is Mr. Connell Moore. Connell, how you doing?
I'm doing great, just on time it seems, and looking forward. Yet again, we're back after that break week now, and we're here at Austria, one of the most exciting tracks on the calendar. And in Formula 2, well, you know that's going to cause a lot of action.
It will do indeed. I'm literally putting in the comment section, just ignore the hair, by the way. I don't know what is going on with my hair on camera. It's just ridiculous. It's sticking up all sorts. But there we are. Nobody's going to see me for the duration of the stream, anyways, which I think is going to be pretty positive indeed. Looking through the lead driver standings, of course, coming into tonight. Lars out on top on 36 points. Of course, he won in France last week and has had a really good string of form. He's never been at the first four this season. Same with Devon, in fact, in second on 28 points. He's never been out the first four. He's 8 points behind on 28. Black Box there in third. F1 Esports Challengers man, I'm glad to say. Black Box in third on 25, with Brothers, another F1 Esports man, in fourth on 23. Ari's there in fifth on 19. Johan in sixth on 18. Kieran in seventh. I believe he's another one out of the realms of the F1 Esports, which is fantastic. Kieran on 12. Ron there in 8th on 10. Twist there in ninth on 7. And then Schumacher, after his pretty much carnage collision in the pit wall in Singapore, is down in 10th on 6 points, along with Gabriel, who's tied for 6th, and then Ryan, Luca Cart, and Nathan Renz so far have scored points this season. Lars there, 36 points, 8 points clear of Devon. We should see a really good fight, but because we've got a few F1 Esports guys in, this is their first chance really to try and put on the form that they need to go into challenges with.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Brothers and Black Boxers, they both had their equal share of a little bit of bad luck mixed with obviously some blunders on their part. Every driver is entitled to their own mistakes, but it's just the fact that the likes of Lars and Devon, they've kept it consistent up to this point. In these first 3 rounds, obviously Lars hasn't scored less than 8 points in any of the rounds so far, but you can see the likes of Brothers didn't score any points in Singapore, and we obviously remember back in France how much he struggled with the setup and the strategy and the wet conditions as well. So obviously he's not had the best last 2 races, but it's Austria. It's a fresh start. We've had a week break to get that little bit of extra practice in, and I think we're definitely going to see the likes of Brothers and, like you mentioned, Black Box, who's actually also in F1 Esports Challengers Series. So I think both of them, we can definitely expect to see them up there. Talent Factory Lars too. One Johan, or not one Johan, sorry, it was ERT Kieran who was on the podium last time after, or no, it was one Johan.
Yeah.
I'm getting myself very mixed up here. Yes, I do remember correctly. He came P2. That was a surprising performance from him to get himself onto the podium like that. Hopefully we can see some more good form like that, but there's absolutely nothing separating these drivers. It's so close. The top 5 in the championship only separated by 18 points. I mean, no matter what round we come to, it's always going to be close. Not only for the podium, but the race win too.
Yeah, 26 points as well, covering the top 8, which I think is going to be really, really strong, especially going into a track like Austria, where things can absolutely just blow wide open in terms of the whole complex of the championship. It should be a very good race, of course, here in Austria. We have got 17 drivers currently in the lobby. I am going to flick off the drivers and turn to the constructor standings. AlphaTauri leading the way on 43 points, with Hassler in second on 37. Alfa Romeo on third on 34. I'm a little bit unwell, by the way, so if I cough and splutter during the stream, just apologies. Aston Martin in fourth on 29. McLaren in fifth on 23. Alpine in sixth on 18. Williams in 7th on 6, and then Red Bull in 8th on 3, with Mercedes and Ferrari right down at the bottom end of the standings, with Will Murdoch and Surfs, of course, in Mercedes, Ferrari, Nuth, and Marley representing them. So far, haven't scored any points this season. AlphaTauri are holding things mainly because of Lars's big championship advantage, Twist being the ultimate second man, I think, in AlphaTauri so far. Blackbox and Kieran together in Haas in second position, 37 points, both F1 Esports Challengers guys. They should be up for this.
Yeah, they definitely should. I mean, obviously they're up there in P2 and only 6 points behind and off of the lead. So they're definitely very close there. They're definitely a very strong and consistent pairing. They're scoring decent points for their team week in, week out. And also another team we should definitely mention is McLaren. Now, obviously their results haven't been what they've wanted them to be recently. But if you remember back to just last week, Jerry Van Bussel was very, very close to winning the Grand Prix, or at least getting a podium. But sadly, a last lap puncture ended those hopes for him. So himself and Brothers, I mean, McLaren have an extremely strong pairing, and I think they just haven't gotten that start to the season that they maybe would have wanted. So Haas, definitely a strong lineup. AlphaTauri, obviously, with Talent Factory Lars being a championship contender, but keep an eye on the two McLaren Talent Factory drivers. They are going to be competitive this season. Obviously, Brothers has already won a Grand Prix. It's only a matter of time until Jerry Van Bussel gets onto the podium and possibly wins a Grand Prix for himself. But it's just such a competitive grid. It's good to see all these teams. You can also see Aston Martin with Aries and Ron. They're very consistent, scoring decent points week in, week out as well. And I think not only is the Drivers' Championship going to be exciting, but I think we should have a decent Constructors' Championship on our hands as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. And AlphaTauri obviously only leading by 6 points. Top 3 teams are covered by 9 points. Top 4 teams are covered by 14. It really, really just brings about the tightness I think we've had so far this season. And of course, looking back at the drivers' standings as well, we have had a different race winner every single week. Brothers, of course, in Spain, who dominated that race, and I said he was going to become the next man for F1 Esports Challengers, which he has qualified for, which I'm glad to say. Singapore, of course, Blackbox took the win there. He was disappointed last week in France, and then Lars took the win in France, of course, last week as well. So with those 3 race wins in mind, we are going to be racing at 5 pass. I've just been informed by Dylan there in the chat as well, so we have got a little bit of time to go through the track map and everything else. But 3 different race winners in the first 3 rounds of the championship. Are we going to get a 4th different winner here tonight, especially with Johan and Kieran last week knocking on the door?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many potential winners throughout the field. We saw Kieran up there, one Johan was up there, Talent Factory, Jerry Van Bussel. I mean, there's so many drivers. Even the man in second place in the championship, Devin, he hasn't won a race yet. He's only got 1 podium to his name, but it's just the fact that he's constantly up there in the top 5 and scoring points, that he's in this championship battle. But yeah, there's so many drivers that can compete for this race win, and I'm almost positive that we're going to see a new race winner, especially at a circuit where it's completely uncertain what's going to happen. This track is it's one of the shortest on the calendar, but surprisingly, also one of the most difficult. It hasn't got many turns, but it's the fact that it's so short. You have to be pushing those limits at every single turn. If you decide that you don't want to push the limit, even by just a couple meters or two, and let's say in the braking zone, you're going to be losing precious 100ths of a second that your rivals are gaining on you. So it's just about who's willing to go as far as they possibly can. And I think because of that, track invalidations are going to be a big thing. So time penalties can definitely come into play as well. The strategy is going to be a big thing, especially if there's any safety cars. But I think with all the factors that we've seen, there's only been 3 rounds this season, 3 race winners. I think there's a high chance that we're going to have a 4th, and well, let's hope so for the excitement factor's sake.
I really hope so as well. Ron has hot-footed it, by the way. We were supposed to get going at 5 past. We're starting a minute early for qualifying, which has caught me on the back foot, but it is 4.3 kilometres in length, of course, here in Austria. 2.6 miles, 10 turns, of course, away now at drivers out on track. 1 down in towards turn number 1 at the Niki Lauda curve, 1 up towards turn number 3 at Remus, and then 1 down in towards turn number 4 at Schloss Gold as well. Plenty of opportunities for overtaking, especially in towards turn number 9. That could be a very rare spot to actually see going through. I think it is not Remus. That's turn 3. It is Jochen Rindt curve, I believe, coming through turn number 9, and then to the Red Bull Mobile curve at turn number 10. And this track Connell is a fantastic track for racing. We should see some close net racing as well. We should see plenty of overtakes, 3 different DRS zones. It has it all, Austria.
Yeah, I mean, 3 DRS zones all in a row consecutively. There's going to be so much overtaking. We're going to see some big dive bombs into the uphill braking zone of turn 3 at that hairpin, and even the downhill braking zone of turn 4, although we might see some drivers struggle to get the car stopped with the momentum working against them. But there's just so many overtaking opportunities, so many places where there's action that can take place. And I think the 3 DRS zones mixed with the short nature of this circuit, 36 laps, so you're going to be making use of those DRS zones 3 times for 36 laps. I mean, there's every chance that we're going to have some brilliant battles up and down the field, which always happens in Austria and other leagues. And since we're here in F2, where the action is even more exciting than ever, I guarantee you there's going to be so much battling. But I'm really looking forward to it. But we're hopping into qualifying now, and well, this is probably one of the most exciting parts of the Austrian Grand Prix, where we actually get to see the drivers go pedal to the metal and really push the limits, get on those white lines, attack those curbs. And I think we're going to start to see some spectacular lap times throughout the field.
I think if we go and metal to the pedal, by the way, George Morgan, I think, be coming for that copyright potentially in terms of that. But Black Box on the run down in towards turn number 4 at Schlossgold. He is the first man out on track, of course, for Hassman. Looking to try and get some good form. He has had some very choice comments, I'm going to say, directed towards him in real life on social media, on Twitter, which I think is not the place, it's not the time. The F1 community has always been a toxic matter, but bringing racist comments into the fold, I think, is absolutely disgraceful. And if you do want to do that, you're just stooping right down to the low. And Black Box, I know, is a very, very keen driver, and he wants to prove that out on track tonight. And hopefully, his focus will be there rather than the comments that he does get, of course, on social media. As Black Box now runs down in towards the right-hander of turn number 1 at the Nicky Lauda curve. The Hassman coming through the right-hander of 1, and now up the hill in towards turn number 2. Of course, famously, the Adler chicane in the MotoGP race in 2022 to obviously bring about the change in the speed with the motorbike. 16 flat through the first sector from Black Box, coming through the right-hander of turn number 3 at Remus, and then down in towards turn number 4, and my favourite pronounced corner name of it, Schlossgold, down in towards turn number 4, and it is a fantastic corner. You've got to get deep onto the brakes into this corner, just off the 100-metre ball, get the car rotated in very nicely indeed, and the Haas does that very neatly indeed. Coming through the right-hander of 4, through the right-hander of 5, and then into the Pirelli curve at turn number 6, before we approach the Vert curve, coming through turn 7 and 8 of the Vert chicane, as it's now known, 44.7 in that middle sector from Black Box, flying through turn number 8, right on the limit, coming on the curve, as he now comes in toward the right-hander of turn number 9 at the Rint curve, the Ogden Rint curve, coming through turn 9, and then to the right-hander of turn number 10 at the Red Bull Mobile curve, through toward the line with Black Box on the run, should be ran on 104, yeah, 104.3 to start the night, not a bad lap at all, and that actually looked pretty clean.
Yeah, definitely did. You saw he was attacking those curbs, taking some very nice late apexes to get those superior exits, and he's put a pretty decent time onto the board there with a 104.3. But with 15 minutes left to go in the session, I'm sure we're going to see some drivers get close to those 1 minute 3 second and possibly get into those 1 minute 3 second lap times, as we're now seeing drivers start to set their first laps of the session, with our championship leader Talent Factory Lars going to provisional pole position with a 104.2. Schumacher and his teammate Devon just 1/10 behind, both on a 104.3. Only 5 drivers setting their lap times as of right now, and I think we're going to see by the end of everyone setting their first lap time, some people might not actually have a lap time on the board because of track invalidations. And you can see the likes of Kilcree, he's made a mistake on his lap as he set a 117.9. Not ideal for the team meant this driver, but we're seeing a lot more lap times onto the board now. Talent Factory Black Box's time holding up pretty decently as he holds P5 at that time. We see Renz up in the top 3. Very impressive to see from him at this early phase of the session. TF10 Nuth is currently coming through turn number 6. Now, he's had some great pace, and we saw it in Spain in the very first round of the season. He was competing for a podium and possibly even a race win, but He's not had the best form recently. Some bad pace mixed with some unluckiness. He's just really not gotten the results that he maybe would have wanted to. But could he possibly change it here today? As he comes across the line, he sets a 104 and he 104.4, and he goes into P8 just behind the likes of OP Lukacar. Bradders finds himself one position behind that, down in P9, and I'd hate to see more struggles from Bradders, but as of right now, that banker lap, it's not looking too impressive.
Not looking too impressive at all. I mean, he's got Johan 400ths of a second behind him. I think he'll be more worried about Johan and behind rather than actually gaining the time ahead at this stage in the session. And with a 104.5, he can look to try and obviously improve. Jerry Van Bussel, however, the man that I'm going to predict for pole position tonight, coming through the right-hander of turn number 5. He's got a very big weight on his shoulders now that I've just said that. Coming through the left-hander of turn number 6 at Pirelli Curve, and he's got invalidated coming out of turn number 6. Too much pressure put on his little shoulders. Jeffrey there in 15 all the way down. Kieran now on the run to the line, goes 11th with a 104.653. He has looked pretty good, obviously, in other races that we've seen this season, especially, I believe, in Spain in the round 1 of the championship. He looked to try and come through the field that day. Ryan is invalidated on his lap as well, so the first runs are pretty much over. Lars out on top from Schumacher there in second, Renz there in third, and actually Renz up in third position behind Schumacher. Not looking too bad there. He's only a reserve driver, of course, in the Red Bull. 104.379. He's ahead of Devon. He's ahead of Black Box. Renz will be very, very happy with that performance so far.
Yeah, I mean, as a reserve driver in any division, you want to be able to show that you're deserving of that full-time seat for the potential that one opens up, or maybe even for next season. So I think Renz putting himself into a top 3 position like that is definitely very promising from the Red Bull reserve driver. Only 1.5 tenths off of pole position. Maybe he could be up there for a bit of a battle for a podium or even possibly a race win. I'd love to see that, getting some new faces up at the top, but pretty much everyone has a chance at winning in this division. That is how close it is here in PSGL's PS Formula 2. You can see most drivers have now set their initial lap times, and we're starting to see what the grid is kind of possibly going to look like for today's Grand Prix, although I'm sure there's plenty of switching of positions to go on for the last 10 minutes of this session, starting with possibly Talent Factory Black Box, who is coming into the final sector of his second lap time in this session. And since the circuit is so short, we could even see some drivers set 4 lap times on the soft compound tires. Usually we only see about 3, but if the drivers have enough softs, they might be willing to push it, as Black Box pushes the limits and far enough, because he goes up into P2, half a tenth off of Talent Factory Lars. Half a tenth might not seem like much, but when you only take 1 minute and 4 seconds to drive around this circuit, it's an absolute age. So that's very, very close between them. And Talent Factory Lars, he's on a lap of his own. He's going to be trying to extend that gap ahead of the rest of the field.
He is indeed. Ron as well is on a lap coming through this middle sector. 44.9, not obviously as quick as what we saw with Black Box there, but he's looking to try and go around the midfield, sort of Nuth Bradders sort of area. Will Murdoch, by the way, in the comment section, has just said it's going to be raining all race, apparently. So that is going to be big interest, and that's why you've seen a majority of drivers on that set of soft compound tyres. Twist being the exception rather than the rule. He went for his first lap on a set of mediums. Ron invalidated at the final corner, and luckily the AlphaTauri, his teammate, of course, Twist now coming through the left-hander of turn number 8, and then up the hill in towards the sprint curve in towards turn 9. I'm getting confused with my corner names, don't worry. Lars the Wild on top, Black Box in second, Schumacher there in third. Twist now coming through the final couple of corners on the run to the line. Should aim to improve around 4 tenths of a second, and he does. Pretty much down to the thousandth there with a 104.509. Big 4/10 improvement. That's normally the gap you see from a set of softs to a set of mediums to a set of soft compound tyre. Frankie saying who let Ron, Cook and Davo is cheering on Will, which is fantastic to see. And also, by the way, thank you for 27,000 subscribers on the channel, which I've just noticed before coming live tonight. A big thank you to everyone that has been tuning in. Of course, the 27,000 of you that have subscribed to this channel are not tuning in for PSF2 tonight, but it is fantastic to have you along board, of course, for the PSGL fan club that I know has grown over the last 2-3 years since I've been, of course, commentating here, or the last 2-3 seasons even, when I've been commentating here. As Jerry now comes through the final couple of corners, the McLaren on the run to the line. Is he going to go quickest? Not quite. Goes fourth, 104.355. Not a bad lap there at all. Lars out on top, though. Black Box second. Schumacher in third, and Schumacher invalidated back in the pits.
There you go, Jerry Van Bussel. He's up into the top four now with the 104.3, but his teammate, on the other hand, having some struggles of his own. I just had a little bit of an eye out there for Bradders. He did improve upon his 104.5, but only by 19 one-thousandths of a second. So Bradders is that 104.5 all he's got to offer, because obviously he's really struggling. He did last week, and it's happening again now here in Austria. He's down in P11. He's 3/10 off of that pole position time, and it's really gone wrong ever since France or Singapore even ever since the first round of his victory at Spain. It's really gone downhill for him, as we've just seen. Who's actually set a lap down there you go, Devin. Oh yeah, he goes up to P2's. Will Murdoch now beats that, a 104.1 for the Mercedes driver, coming from the midfield to now the top of the field. And very interesting that he informed us there's going to be rain for this Grand Prix. So even though these drivers are fast in the dry, it could be a completely different dynamic for the wet in this Grand Prix. But Will Murdoch now, he's now in the battle for pole position. Very interesting to see indeed.
He is, and I said in the comment section, are we seeing a Will Murdoch masterclass incoming? There's your answer. He's 600 clear of Lars in second, Ren's there in third. That inspiration, I think, has come from me and me only there. Black Box though through the through the first sector, 200 down through the first sector. The Hassman now on the run down into the Schloss ball at turn number 4. Johan there in 6th position as well, just improving his lap at 104.287. We look for Jerry and Van Bussel, obviously, to try and improve. Luca Cart down in 10th, Nuke there in 11th. They like this track. They should be up there toward the top end of the field come the end of the session. Black Box though coming now through the left-hander of turn number 6 and then in towards the vert curve of turn number 7 and 8, and he's 500 up, 44.6, matching Devon pretty much in that middle sector. Devon was actually dead on his about to the thousandth of a second there in terms of his first sector. So Devon there in 4th, Black Box there in 5th as he now controls the car, coming through turn number 9 and then controls it again through turn number 10 on the run to the line now with Black Box. Is he going to go quicker than Will Murdoch? No, it's not good when it lasted. Will Murdoch still on top. Lars there in 2nd, Black Box there in 3rd, and Lars, I believe, is just preparing up for lap coming through turn 9.
And he is indeed. He comes through turn number 10. Small step out on the rear end there, but he keeps it under control, coming through turn number 10. And he's now preparing himself for turn number 1, hitting that curb ever so slightly to get yourself the best exit possible by using that raised red and white curb. As we go through the flat out, not so much of a turn 2. He's 1/100th down on his time in the first sector, but there's only one turn in the first sector. So the middle sector is where all the difference can be made. He makes his way down into turn number 4, braking just before the 100-meter board. There's a downhill braking zone. You need to brake a little bit earlier because of that momentum that you're carrying into that turn. As we now come into turn number 6, you can see wide entry, but closes it up on the exit to get on the power as early as possible and open up that steering. Now through turn number 8, getting as close as possible to invalidating there by riding that curb. Now he's just got the final 2 right-handers to go, using the white line to his advantage, but hitting a late apex there, really using the full waist of the circuit. And across the line, he sets a 104.1. It's an improvement, but it's not good enough for provisional pole position just yet. And Will Murdoch, with a lap time that he set in the middle of the session, out of nowhere it seems like, is still on provisional pole position, and he's got 4.5 minutes to improve upon that time. I think we're in quite the battle for pole position now, as we see 3 drivers in the 104.1 second lap times.
There could be another one coming in as well. Bradders is coming through the final couple of corners. He was a couple of tenths off Will, but he is up on his time as he now comes through the final corner on the run to the line. 104.3, not enough. Goes there 9th ahead of Jerry Van Bussel, who was a 44.5 at the end of the middle sector. Coming in towards the right-hander now with turn number 9 on board with the other McLaren. He looks to try and steal Will Murdoch's pole position off him at this moment in time with 4 minutes to go. Jerry Van Bussel on the run to the line, and it was good while it lasted because Jerry out on top. Will Murdoch there in 2nd now with Lars in 3rd. Schumacher there in 4th. He is down on his time, but Jerry Van Bussel out on top. Will Murdoch in 2nd, Lars in 3rd. It was good while it lasted, Will, but it just comes to show he's got pace, and do not discount that man out in wet conditions, because I know he's a master of his craft around here in the wet.
Yeah, definitely. And Jerry Van Bussel taking that provisional pole position with a 104 flat there, just about by 1/1000th of a second. I said to keep an eye on the McLaren boys. So far, one of them is doing quite a decent job, but Bradley, he just needs to find his footing now. He's got one more lap time to go in this session, and even if he can improve by a 10th or 2/10ths, he can get himself up into that top 6 and top 5 positions. So he's just got to find that little bit of extra time, and hopefully he can be up there with his teammate. But very interesting to see what Will Murdoch is going to do now at the end of this session. It's the first time we've seen him up here this season, and I'd love to see a new pole position sitter in the form of the Mercedes driver. And yeah, even if you get pole position in this session, it's not set in stone that you're going to win the Grand Prix, because obviously overtaking at this circuit is definitely a lot easier than it is at other tracks. But also the wet conditions, they're going to cause big troubles. Hopefully for the driver's sake, it's intermediate conditions, but there's every chance we could see those blue-walled full wet tires come out. And if we see that, we might also see a little bit of chaos for the Grand Prix itself. But the drivers are coming out of the pit lane now, preparing for those final lap times in this session. Jerry Van Bussel is on provisional pole position with a 104 flat. 3 drivers follow him on a 104.1, and the top 14 separated by just 3/10ths of a, or 4/10ths of a second, I should say. It's going to be a close end to this qualifying session, and every single 100th counts. Who is going to be able to win this battle for pole position? I'm not too sure, but I'm sure that I'm going to be excited to find out.
Oh, definitely. So, Kieran there in 15th position, by the way, had a spin, I think, coming out of turn number 1. It was just a slight spin, but he has backed off his lap. Obviously got caught, I think, either on the inside or the outside curb of turn number 1. It was either one of the two places. But Kieran there, the ERT man, down in 15th position. VRT Ryan, I believe, is going to be one of the first to start up on a lap, along with Kilcree, and who's just came off a lap, and Ron, who's just about to prepare for a lap, I think, coming through. In fact, down in towards turn number 1. On board with Ryan, though, 104.361 is currently his personal best. Brothers and Newt potentially in the firing line for an improvement here from the VRT man. Jerry Van Bussel though out on top. Will Murdoch there in second, Lars in third, and Ryan already up in the first sector. 500 up through the first sector for the VRT man. Coming through the right-hand of turn number 3 at Remus. Down the hill in towards turn number 4 at Schlossgold. Ignore the yellow flag that's ahead. I think that's Brothers just preparing up on an outlap to the right-hand side of him, as now Ryan comes down into the right-hander of turn number 4, and the Mercedes now flies through turn number 4 in towards the right-hander of 5, into the Pirelli curve now at turn number 6. Jerry Van Bussel, though, still out on top. Will Murdoch there in second. Lars there in third. This is crucial now for Ryan on his lap. 44.8 down on his time in the middle sector. Not sure where he's lost the time. He backs off, so Ryan has backed off on his lap. They're down in 11th position, but we have got other drivers like Ron on a lap, and actually he's 2/10ths up coming through the final couple of corners. So we'll see what the Aston Martin can do on the run towards the line. Chazoo Ron goes 8th. Not a bad lap there at all from him. Devon's up in the middle sector as well. 500's up through the middle sector, 44.5. Currently his best. We've got less than 20 seconds to go. Jerry out on top. Will Murdoch in second. Lars there in third. We'll keep the timing tower up as Lars now goes quick as with a 104 flat. A big lap time there from Lars. Is Devon going to come in with a bigger lap time of his own as the Alfa Romeo now comes through? The final corner on the run to the line. Just shy, goes third ahead of Will Murdoch. And these are the fine margins now. Jerry is even in the first sector. Schumacher as well is on the lap coming through the middle sector. There's a spinner coming through turn number 4, which I think might be Kilcree if I'm not mistaken. Kilcree I think is spun coming through turn number 4. Schumacher 500 stand, but Lars out on top. Jerry in second. Devon there in third. Will Murdoch is invalidated, so he is done on his lap. We'll run on board with Schumacher coming in towards turn number 9. Still 500 stand this lap time. Coming through turn 9. Then coming through the right hand of turn number 10. Is he going to now bring it on pole position? Schumacher now on the run to the line, invalidates and wasn't good enough anyways. Devon not improving. Jerry Van Bussel to the line. 4,000s down on the run to the line. Doesn't find the time. He's a 10th down in the end. Big improvements coming in potentially. Black Box is on the lap. Renz is backed off a lap. Black Box is on the lap. 15.9. And he's 3.6 seconds down in that middle sector. So Black Box has obviously made a mistake somewhere. And I think, apart from his Kilcree retires in the pit lane, I think everyone is done in qualifying. They are indeed. Lars in the end, out on top from Jerry there in second, Devon there in third, and a horrible qualifying session from Dylan there in 17th, as he's just pointed out in the chat. But Lars out on top, Jerry Van Bussel second, Devon in third. Talent Factory, if this was a team event, they'll be very happy with that one too.
They would indeed, as their very own Talent Factory Lars championship leader takes pole position by just 4/100ths of a second. Jerry not able to improve upon that final time, upon that 104.0 with his final lap, but he still gets himself onto the front row of the grid, and hopefully he can find himself fighting for the win, just as he was at the last round in France. Devin up there in P3, very good to see from him. And with obviously Lars and Devin being P1 and P2 in the championship, and after 3 rounds, we're starting to see who's in that actual battle. And I think Lars and Devin will definitely be in it. To have them both in the top 3 should be very exciting to see how that plays out between the two of them. Will Murdoch completes the top 4 as he is the last driver to be within a 10th of a second of Lars's time. That shows you the fine margins that we're experiencing here in Austria. Schumacher finds himself in P5 with Blackbox in P6, Renz managing to get P7 with Nuth in P8, Ron in P9, Johan in P10, Brothers down in P11, Twist in P12, VRT Ryan in P13, ERT Kieran in P14, Luca Cart in P15, Kilcree in P16, and Dylan will be lining up on the final row of the grid in P17.
He will indeed. Lars out on top, Jerry in second, Devin there in third. About to go to our advert, of course, from GT Omega. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to a rain-sodden Austrian Grand Prix. Of course, our sponsors there, our title sponsors, of course, in GT Omega, providing you with that advert of the Apex cockpit. And, of course, you can use, I believe you can use the commands in the chat as well in terms of GT Omega. In fact, I'm going to try this right now, just while we get the 30-second countdown on. Hopefully it works. If it does, then I'm absolutely genius. But it doesn't. So I think I might only be for PCF1. But still, 10 seconds ago, Connell, what are we in for in Austria?
I think we're in for a very traction control start here, as we're going to see some slippery wheels off of the line, as all the drivers are going to struggle to get away. But it's going to be about who can get on the power perfectly for this race start. You can see we have 3, 4, 5 red lights. They're gone and we're away. What kind of start is it for our pole man of Talent Factory Lars in the wet conditions? It's a very good one up against his teammate. He maintains the lead coming into turn number 1. Will Murdoch is on the inside line of Devin as he forced him off of the circuit there on the exit of turn number 1. Meanwhile, Talent Factory Jerry Van Bustel getting very close to the back of his teammate, not looking for a move into turn 3 just yet. We're seeing some battles in the midfield as Nuth has the inside line on Renz into turn number 3. He's going to try and get on the power as quickly as he possibly can. A little bit of wheel spin though, and Renz gets the better exit as Jerry Van Bussel makes the move for the lead of the Grand Prix. Devin is trying to take advantage of the chaos, and it works because Lars goes extremely deep into turn number 4 and he loses a position to the Alfa Romeo driver. That's Will Murdoch, who's made a mistake. He's down in P12 now as JR Dillon, who started in P17, is now making the move into turn number 6. Will Murdoch has a snap of oversteer through turn number 6 and he falls all the way from the top 4 down to P17 now, the very back of the grid. You could not have asked for a worse race start than that. Meanwhile, the McLaren driver of Brothers looking to that outside line of Shazoo Ron, which turns now to the inside. He tries to go for a switchback, decides against it and thinks better of it as he concedes a position there to Shazoo Ron. Talent Factory Jerry Van Bussel leads the way after lap 1, and quite a bit of chaos as Lars now makes a mistake getting up on the curb on the exit of turn number 1. His Talent Factory teammate Blackbox is all over the back of him. He's going to look to that outside line using his overtake button. He's going to try brake as late as possible into turn number 3, decides to back out of the move, possibly get a better exit, but does not out of turn number 3, and quite a few switching of positions on that lap 1.
Yeah, Blackbox, I think Lars made a mistake, by the way, down in towards turn number 4 in the first lap. And now Blackbox tries to dummy him to the inside line and towards Schloss Gold, and has dummied him nearly off into the gravel. Goodness me. Blackbox there out on top in terms of that. Goes into third. Lars there in fourth. Ren's there in fifth. But Jerry Van Bussel leading the way. Devon in second. And Jerry makes a mistake there. Just coming through turn number 6. A slight slide there from the McLaren. Just about controlling the car. Rent and Lars are still side by side coming through the middle sector. Lars is all over the place. I'm not sure what talent factor we've given him in terms of a setup, but he's absolutely all over the shop in this race, especially so with Dylan spinning in the background there as well. He's recovered the car. The Juventus Racing Man down in 17th position. Jerry though out on top from Devon there in second. Blackbox there in third. Big fastest lap there from Jerry Van Bussen as well, who of course leads the way. Bradders on the back of Ron. You mentioned that battle on lap 1. On the run now down in towards turn number 1. Bradders trying to get Ron. Ron looks quite quick though, I've got to be honest, in these intermediate conditions. Ryan there on the back of Johan. Kieran there on the back of Luca Carter as well. They're doing a fantastic job, these guys, in these full wet conditions. As Newth now tries to go side by side with Renz in towards turn number 3. Tries to get the job done to the inside line. And Newth and Renz still side by side coming out of Remus now down in towards turn number 4. Schloss Gold. Schumacher could be there to try and pick up all the pieces. They make contact or they run each other wide down and towards turn number 4, but in the end, respectful driving is the order of the day. Ren's there in 5th and Newth in 6th. And just to come back onto your comment as well, Kocha, there in the chat, it is PlayStation. There are no cheaters on PlayStation.
Thankfully not, but that might seem like it with the pace that Jerry Van Bussel is showing in this Grand Prix. It's lap 3 and he's 1.1 seconds out in front, ahead of Devon, 1.2 now. Jerry Van Bussel, after that move for the race lead, which he profited because of the struggles from his Talent Factory teammate Lars, he is now absolutely flying in front. He's found his groove in minimal time. It's now 1.6 seconds as he sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix once again at 1 minute 13.4, and Devon quite simply does not have an answer to the pace of the McLaren driver. He was trying to get a race win last time out in France. This seems a lot more likely now here in Austria as Black Box is slowly but surely catching up to the back of the Alfa Romeo driver of Devon. Meanwhile, the Alfa Romeo teammate of Schumacher is on the back of TF10 Newth as he makes a little bit of contact, and Ren's almost losing the car there out of turn number 3. Thankfully keeps it on the circuit, trying his best to defend from Newth, but Schumacher is getting very, very close to this battle. He looks to the inside line into turn number 4, manages to get it slowed down, hits the apex that he needed to, and has the inside line for this turn number 5, which he gets a superior exit. But Newth isn't going to go down without a fight. He breaks late into turn number 6. It's great car control from the both of them, who managed to keep it on circuit there, but an optimistic move from Newth. He's not able to get the move done, and Schumacher stays ahead in P6. Great move there from Schumacher, and some excellent battling there, although obviously these drivers in these early laps in these wet conditions, they know there's no DRS and they are looking for any opportunity at all to try and overtake one another.
Definitely so. Schumacher, by the way, in terms of defensive driving, that is the sort of driving he gets credited for from me, because that was perfect, I think, from his perspective. Newth gave him absolutely no inch of room in that battle. It was fantastic to watch, and Schumacher, long gone was the days, of course, from causing a safety car in Singapore. That was a great battle, and hopefully he can get Renz as well, maybe down in towards turn number 4. As Bradders looks to the inside line of turn number 3. Up the inside, the McLaren goes on the Aston Martin. Ron held out to dry there on the outside line, but the traction remains with the McLaren. Nearly a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. Now side by side down in towards turn number 4. Ron coming back at him in towards turn number 4. Tries to go all the way around the outside of Schloss Gold. The McLaren just about hanging on to the inside line. Great fair fight between these both, and Bradders gets the move done. So he's into 8th position. Ron there in 9th. The experience, I think, of F1 future challenges, man, there in P8. Will Mullock as well through on Kilcree. He's making good ground there through into 15th ahead of Kilcree. Jerry though out on top is 2 seconds clear already. Devon there in 2nd. Black Box in 3rd. Devon has got slightly more ERS if you're brand new, of course, to form. And Jerry, my goodness me, has a huge mistake coming out the final corner. How on earth he has saved that, I do not know. That was 3/4 sideways, Tokyo drifting through the final corner. Spied that, I was about to say Black Box and Devon, but I don't know how Devon had more ERS compared to Black Box is what I was going to say. But Jerry, my God, he frightened the living daylights out of me. Just about kept the car.
And all of the drivers now pulling out the big saves when they really need it in this race, in these wet conditions, trying to catch those slides of oversteer, which are very, very common when you're trying to push the limits, trying to get on that power, and the tires just simply won't allow it. We're now seeing Schumacher. He overtook Nuth on the last lap, and a textbook move there from Schumacher, straight down the inside and claims the exit of that turn. Schumacher moves himself up into P5. He's back to where he qualified now. He's going to try and break himself into the top 4 with Talent Factory Lars being 2.4 seconds ahead. Lars, he's obviously had struggles earlier on in the Grand Prix. I think he's starting to find a little bit of consistency now. He's currently 1.7 seconds off the black box as Ron and Bradders are going side by side through turn 9. Bradders makes a move to the inside line up into P8 now.
Yeah, Bradders actually made a mistake coming through turn 7 and 8, and Ron, I think, had to try something. And I thought he was going to get the move done around the outside of turn number 9. That would have been incredible if he pulled that off. In the end, Ron, coming up against a future F1 Esports Challengers man there in 8th position, I think has just had his own kippers done in terms of that battle. Ron there in 9th though, Johan in 10th, and to be fair, they're all running the big old DRS train really at this point, of the slipstream train, because it is in the wet conditions, of course. The rain, however, is beginning to get a little bit lighter out on track. I'm up with Will Murdoch on the back of Twist, who looks to try and get the move done down in towards the right-hander of turn number 4. Dylan at the minute is there in 17th position, doing a good job as Will Murdoch sends it to the inside line. The McLaren shooter going to try and get the job done. Little bit forceful, little bit elbows out, but the Mercedes gets the job done on the AlphaTauri. The AlphaTauri still there, almost towards the inside line. Will Murdoch there in 14th, Twist there in 15th. Dylan's ERS, by the way, with Mr. Rudy there in the comment section, currently on 49% as Ryan and Luca got a side by side, and Luca got somehow got that job done around turn 8.
Great job there from the Red Bull driver. Managed to get down the inside into turn number 7 after great exit out of turn 6. And he gets himself ahead of the VRT driver. Schumacher now sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. As soon as he was released from the back of Renz, he moved up into P5. More mistakes being made by all the drivers. We're seeing so many saves being made up and down the field. The drivers, they don't have control of that rear end, but they're managing to keep their car pointing in the right direction just about in some cases.
Okay,
but
to the inside line, sorry to cut you off, on the back of Ryan in towards turn number 3. Tries to go side by side, bit of a squirm there from Ryan on the outside line. Will Murdoch might be involved in this fight down in towards turn number 4, but Kieran's still side by side. We take this with Will Murdoch's perspective. Kieran though sends it to the inside line, and then there's contact with Will Murdoch on the brakes. In between, down towards turn number 4. Unfortunate for Will Murdoch. I'm not sure if he's got any front wing damage. I think he's got away with it. However, Ryan there in 13th position got done. Will Murdoch, I think, definitely coming through turn number 6 does have front wing damage. Left side end plate damage, I think, potentially for the Brits.
There you go. It's not been an ideal race start for Will Murdoch after starting in the top 4. Finds himself at the back of the grid and now pulls into the pit lane to get that front wing repaired. It's not been a day to remember so far for Will Murdoch, but we're only on lap 9 of 36. There's so much racing action left to go, and anything is possible. Let's hope the Mercedes driver can get himself back into the battle for some decent points paying positions. Meanwhile, further towards the front, you can see the gaps are starting to opening up, and by quite a bit. No one in the top 6 is within a second of another driver ahead of them. Not that it matters too much in these wet conditions, with DRS being disabled, as we see VRT Ryan and ERT Kieran battling it out. Ryan manages to get back past the Haas driver on the exit of turn number 3. I assume that was a mistake from Kieran on the exit, as we're seeing from plenty of the drivers throughout the field. This is quite a nice battling that's now forming all the way from Shizou Ron in P9 down to ERT Kieran in P13, and I'm sure we're going to see plenty of switching up positions. We're already seeing with VRT Ryan and ERT Kieran. Luca Car in this battle with one Johan, who was in that battle, who got the podium in France last time out. So he's in that battle. He's just trying to get himself some decent points today. Obviously, Austria is not a strong point of his, and the wet conditions definitely not improving his time on the track.
Yeah, definitely not. There's a lot of conversation, by the way, going on about food in the comment section. Try and dim it down a little bit, because it's making me a little bit hungry as Dylan has retired through the final corner, and that is a safety car. Safety car right on track. Will Murdoch, I think, very much blessed, I think, with that safety car coming out, because the rest of the field will have to pit in. Will Murdoch, however, will have to stick to his Delta time, which is unfortunate, but we'll see where Dylan is. Coming through the final corner now with Will Murdoch. He's got caught in the outside curb and he spun the car on the right-hand side. So unfortunate from Dylan's perspective. He was driving very well, I've got to say. Obviously not in the consistent form as Twist, Kilcree ahead of him were, but Dylan out of the race. Unfortunately, I can't go on board the ZRS now because he is out of the race, and that is the first safety car of the night. And I was literally, just literally came into my mind while you were talking there. Would we see a potential safety car in this race? And if so, it would really bring up the pack, and it'll bring Will Murdoch certainly back into play. But now we've got a safety car out on track. Everyone should, I think, be out of the pit lane ahead of Will. Jerry into the pit lane. Devon is staying out, interestingly. So Devon's staying out. Black Box is into the pit lane. There's a split up in the strategies here. Lars there pitting in. Schumacher continues on. Ren's continuing. Nuth continuing. Brada's continuing, is into the pit lane. Ron is into the pit lane. Johan is also in, I believe into the pit lane. Ryan, Kieran, Twist, Kilcree, all into the pit lane. Will Murdoch stays out. So Devon, Schumacher, the two Alfa Romeos, Rent and Nuth, and Luca Kart, so the two Red Bulls and the Ferrari, as all staying out on track. And to be honest, that is not a bad strategy call. Are they really going to get, if the conditions are going to turn, Connell, are we going to see A, full wet conditions towards the end of the race, and that's why they're pitting in now, or B, are they even going to make 26 laps on that sort of inters? Because it could be very difficult to make them all the way to the end of the race.
Definitely could, but on these intermediate compounded tires, especially on this game, it's very interesting how they work. Sometimes they can be super durable, sometimes they just wear out completely. And I think I have actually seen it before in an esports competition where a driver started the race on intermediates and finished the race on the same set of intermediates here in Austria. Obviously he was very close to getting a puncture, but it is technically possible to get to the end of the race on the inters that you start the race on, which to me is quite surprising, although I'm not too sure you'll be having too much fun once they really reach their wear. But yeah, the guys who stayed out, maybe they know about that. Maybe that's a strategy that they're aware of and they're trying to take advantage. Obviously the likes of Luca Kart and News, who were a little bit lower down, trying to gamble on a strategy. Or it could even be that the full wets, like I said, the full wets could be coming, dry conditions could be coming. It could be a number of things which we sadly don't have the information on. But the fact of the matter is, most drivers have come in for those intermediate compound of tires, so you can only really assume that we are going to be staying on inters for the rest of the race. At least that's just my guess if they're boxing now, because most drivers are going to make one stop in this race. But we'll have to see what the top 5 do. They've got 10 lap older tires. You see, the thing is with the intermediate compounded tires, the wear doesn't really affect the pace too much until they start to really get worn down and close to that puncture territory. So it'll be interesting to see, can these top 5 guys keep up with the pace of the fresh intermediate runners, or are they instantly going to fall off? And obviously mixed with the fact that there's no DRS enabled, it should be quite hard to overtake. So I think both strategies are viable, but it's an interesting split between the field.
Yeah, definitely so. Goodness me, bit of a raspy voice. Devon leading the way, third of the race through. Schumacher in second, Ren's there in third. Dylan, by the way, saying in the comment section, he gained 7 positions off the race start, and then his wheel disconnected twice. So that is a rotten bit of luck there, certainly with Dylan. Hopefully he will be able to get that problem fixed. It was a Thrustmaster T150, so if anybody has got any hacks potentially in terms of how to get the Thrustmaster T150 fixed before it gets thrown out the window, then I'm sure Dylan will be very much taking on board of any opinions that is to be had in the chat. But Devon out on top from Schumacher in second, Ren's there in third, Nuke and Luca Kart all staying out of course out on track. Not a bad strategy call. I think they're more willing potentially for another safety car is what's going through my head now. I think they ideally want another safety car, stay ahead of the pack. Jerry, Black Box, Lars, they've now been put down the order in 6th, 7th and 8th position, and it is very difficult to actually get the moves done in these intermediate conditions, especially if you're on all the compounder tyres against people on a fresher compounder tyre. And with those guys, with Jerry, Black Box, Lars being on the fresher set, it could mean that these guys are going to find it quite difficult to overtake, but it remains to be seen what this race is going to happen. Will Murdoch, by the way, I think the big indication is, you were saying there, Connell, about the weather conditions. I think with Will Murdoch coming back in the pit lane, it is definitely going to be full inters, I think, throughout this race, and therefore he has came into the pit lane, doesn't want to weave like he is doing there, because he might end up spinning if he's not careful, but he's there in 16th position, and he's still there down at the back of the field. Dylan as well, saying, why don't esports drivers use the Thrustmaster T150? Dylan, I think, pretty much explains everyone with the DNF, I think, which is why the F1 esports guys are not using the wheel. And that is unfortunate for Dylan, of course, him being out of the race. But the safety car now in this lap, Devon now the virtual bird manager, he's now the virtual safety car. It's going to be interesting from the start, Connell, because Schumacher, the one behind him, is his own teammate. I don't think there's going to be any team orders between these two.
Definitely don't think there will, especially with the pace that Schumacher was showing just a few laps to go. I think he wanted this opportunity to be closer to the front, and he's got it now. So it's him and his championship contending teammate battling for this race lead, but he's got the likes of Renz behind who's shown some decent pace up until this point, so he's definitely going to keep an eye on his mirrors. But Schumacher now on the back of Devon. When is Devon going to go for this safety car restart? The safety car is well and truly back into the pit lane. It's just about when does Devon want to go. Is it going to be out of this turn number 10? No, he's waiting even longer. He's possibly going to wait for the start finish line. He has to go eventually, and he does go, and it's a decent jump up against Schumacher. But Renz has not had a good restart because Nuth is looking to the outside line into turn number 1, but he is going to concede that position. Has a look around the outside just a bit. Meanwhile, Jerry Van Bussel flies around the outside of OP Lukakart, and his teammate is trying to follow him through. Meanwhile, Jerry Van Bussel looks to the inside line of TF10 Nuth into turn number 3. Nuth, on the other hand, turns defense into offense as he is trying to make the move on Renz on the exit of the turn, now trying to get the better exit. We've seen this before, but can Renz now Nuth get the better exit? He's got the inside line once again for this turn number 4. Jerry Van Bussel has a sneaky look to the inside, decides that's not the best option. They're still side by side though, Nuth and Renz, and it finally ends with Nuth getting the better exit out of turn number 4. He moved himself into a top 3 and a podium position, but you can see the grip between the worn tires and the fresh tires. We're not seeing it too much yet, but Jerry Van Bussel now has an opportunity to attack the drivers ahead of him. He's definitely got the best pace throughout the field, as we saw just a few laps ago, and he's got his teammate now, Bradders, right beside him, as we see contact between Kieran and Lukakart heading through turn number 9. Kieran with an optimistic move to the inside line, sees him spin on the exit of that turn, and he now falls all the way down to P16 and the back of the field. So very unfortunate there for ERT Kieran, but that's hard racing for you. So now seeing Jerry Van Bussel once again. He's going ultra aggressive here. He gets the better exit out of turn number 1. He has the inside line for turn number 3. He's so late on the brakes there is Jerry Van Bussel. He could even look for a move on Nuth, but settling just for overtaking Renz, which Bradders is now trying to take advantage of the situation. I'm losing my words. There's so much action going on.
There is indeed, and he absolutely dives it to the inside line. It's number 4, Schlossgold's a very clean move. He pulls this one off. Bradders on the fresher compound, gets the job done. Renz run out of road in the end, and Renz there down in 6th, Bradders there in 5th. Phenomenal driving between the two McLarens. Just Black Box goes to the inside line at turn number 6. You thought that the action would end. Oh my word, it's nearly ending tears between Black Box and Lukakart. They make contact there, coming through the right-hander now, turn number 8. But Black Box just about gets the job done, and now Lars is trying to go all the way around the outside of the ring, curve, and it's 3 wide. Oh my word, Johan to the inside line, tries to pull it off, but in the end, Lars gets 2 for 1. Round the outside he goes. Brilliant racing between them both. Lukakart's been done for an absolute kipper, and he's down there in 10th position with Will Murdoch now all of a sudden on the back of him. Great racing between Lars, Johan, and Lukakart. Great respect. Lars there in 8th, Johan in 9th, Lukakart in 10th. They come out of turn number 1. Are we going to see more battling? Yes, we are. I think Jerry on the back of Nuke is going to be the next move up the hill and towards turn number 3 at Remus. Should get the job done towards the inside on. The rain, by the way, is nearly stopping that thing out on track now. Jerry there in 3rd ahead of Nuke, who went too deep into the corner, and Jerry now responds. We're into 3rd position. Very nice move there on Nuke, and now we can focus on the front 2. Devon and Schumacher, the 2 Alfa Romeos. There is a papaya-coloured McLaren coming into your rear wings in probably about 30 seconds.
Yeah, definitely soon enough, because Jerry's been flying throughout this Grand Prix. He's had to use a little bit of his ERS though to get ahead of the drivers that he has recently overtaken. He's down to about 30%. Meanwhile, Schumacher head is on 80. Devon leading with just 20% ERS. So very interesting ERS there to see from the top three. But Schumacher, he has that advantage. He's not been pushing. He doesn't want to overtake his teammate just yet. He wants to sit in behind the other Alfa Romeo. So obviously he's not looking to lead this Grand Prix just yet, at least. So he's going to save that portion of his pace for a little later on. Jerry Van Bussel sets another fastest lap of the Grand Prix. It's a 13.1 for the McLaren driver. Meanwhile, his teammate is attempting to get onto the back of Jerry Van Bussel, but first he's going to have to overtake Nuth as ERT Kieran goes 3/10 faster with a 112.8. Town Factory Black Box has got a lot of overspeed coming into turn number 3, and he sends one to the inside.
No.
You can see that's contact between Nuth and Bradders, which ended up in NLD Renz losing his front wing there completely, and he's going to have to come into the boxes. Bradders is now side by side with Luca Kart, and that was a bit of a kerfuffle there between quite a few of the drivers.
There was indeed. I think Bradders, they got caught in each other, unfortunately, coming through turn number 3. And Will Murdoch, by the way, is up in 7th out of all of this. Bradders now trying to respond to go all the way around the outside on Johan, which will be a phenomenal move. He can pull this off. Oh, and he does. Brilliant stuff by Bradders. That is how you respond from being spun. That is how you respond. Nearly with a slide as well. And now it's 3 wide once again as Will Murdoch all of a sudden's up to 6th. Bradders down to 7th. Renz is trying to fight to come in the pit lane. Johan to the inside line. Doesn't really work, and he's nearly taken out. Renz has to come in the pit lane. He's cut across the wide line. Might be looked at in terms of the penalties, but Johan didn't give him any room to come in the pit lane there, to be honest. All squandering here in Austria. We're halfway through here in Austria. It's Devon leading the way. Schumacher in second, but for how long? Because Jerry now on the back of him in towards turn number 3 at Remus. Is he going to try and lunge it to the inside line? Not quite. Schumacher there in second, holding on for now. Devon leading the way from Schumacher in second, Jerry in third, and for the first time, I think, maybe in quite a while, I hope that we are going to see a little bit less action out on track, and hopefully everything begins to calm down. Saying that, though, Schumacher's nearly gone in the back of Devon, and Jerry actually got caught in the outside curve there through turn number 4, and again with a bit of a slide there from Devon in the race lead, but Devon, Schumacher and Jerry in the top 3, the front 3. If you thought there was not going to be any action, you can think again, because Jerry's right on the back of Schumacher.
Yeah, it looks like the racing gods aren't giving you your wishes, because we're going to see Jerry Van Bussel try to go for a move to the inside into turn number 9, but he gets cut off there by Schumacher. Contact between the two, managing to keep it on track, do the McLaren and the Alfa Romeo, but it's now getting very, very close between them. Jerry Van Bussel is caught up so much that Schumacher is being forced to get closer and closer to Devon as we see a yellow flag. That is for Kilcree, who's had a spin out of turn number 4. Is that going to cause safety car? No, it does not, because he gets himself back onto the circuit. But Jerry Van Bussel, he's trying to force Schumacher into making a move for the lead of the Grand Prix by getting closer and closer into turn number 3. Has a look to the inside line. Schumacher defends that inside, though. He's not letting Jerry have a look into that third turn. But now out of turn number 4, Jerry is really trying to pile on the pressure. He wants to get into that P2 position and split the two Alfa Romeo drivers. Throws a dummy to the inside line into turn number 4, tries to go for a switchback, but that does not work out for him. Or does it? Because he gets a decent exit. Schumacher, stop of oversteer, almost forces Jerry Van Bussel off of the circuit, who breaks late into turn number 6, blocking Schumacher from getting the best exit. Jerry Van Bussel is on the outside line for turn number 7. They're side by side through turn number 8, and Jerry Van Bussel, no, he's not got the better exit just yet. Schumacher is trying his best to hold on. He's got to hold this around the outside of turn number 9, but no, Jerry Van Bussel is up into P2, disallowing Devon to pull away now. But Jerry Van Bussel, you know, he's going to be pushing like an absolute dog to get back into the 1 second gap of our leader. Bradders gets himself a 3-second time penalty for extending the track limits for the 3rd time on that final turn there. He is now the only driver in the field so far to have a 3-second time penalty, and on lap 20 of 36 with 16 drivers still in the session, that's quite impressive to see that in wet conditions not many drivers have actually got 3-second time penalties.
Yeah, it's phenomenal stuff. Schumacher, by the way, he had to try and fight that. There was no other option given to him but to try and fight on the back of Jerry. I'll tell you what, it was a brilliant battle to watch. Jerry there in second, obviously with the fresher tyres, was always going to come out on top, but Schumacher is proving to me, certainly from his antics in Singapore, we can forget about those. That is in the past. This is the Schumacher we like to see. This is the Schumacher that does not want to give absolute an inch to his rest of his rivals. It's brilliant to watch. This is the Schumacher I like to see, and I'm sure these guys in the chat, this is the Schumacher you like to see as well, rather than the antics as Will Murdoch now. They come like London buses with the 3-second penalties, I'm afraid. Will Murdoch with the 3 seconds. Brad is now with the 3 seconds there as well. Devon, though, leading the way. Jerry in second, Schumacher there in third. At this moment in time, the tyres aren't really dropping off for Devon and Schumacher at this stage. They're the only two, as well as Nuth, I think, who are going to come into the pit lane. I think everyone else is going to get towards the finish line together. Johan on the back of Luca Cott looks the inside line of turn 1. In the meantime, gets the job done on the traction. Johan surely gets the job done, and the Alpine 3 into 8. Jerry still on the back of Devon, looking to try and counter him down towards Schlossgold at turn number 4. But what battery does he have left? Devon pretty much with Jerry, pretty much side by side with battery, certainly not going to be side by side, I don't think, in terms of the corner. Devon hangs on to the lead. Jerry there in second, Schumacher there in third. And if I was the front two, I'd certainly be lifting them coasting into the corners, because that will suit them quite a lot going forward.
Definitely will, but they've got to keep an eye on their rearview mirrors, because there's 4 drivers who are separated by about 2 seconds, and they're all gunning for this race win, and especially Jerry Van Bussel, because he's going to try to look that inside line into turn number 9, but he has not got the best exit out of turn number 8 to do that. But he's within a tenth of Devon. He's been following him so closely, even with the dirty air and wet conditions. He's been almost pushing him through the turns, and I'm sure he'll be trying to go for a move into turn number 3. Devon is low on ERS, and Jerry Van Bussel's in the same boat, but he's got the power of slipstream. Devon does not get a great exit out of that first turn, and now Jerry Van Bussel is going to go on the attack, as there's an Alpine stopped on track there. I'm not too sure what's going on with that. That's Kilfree, who's retired from the session. Thankfully no incident caused, but Jerry Van Bussel late and committed on the brakes. But Devon, that's a beautiful switchback maneuver. The only question is, can he make it work? And I think the answer might be yes. He's going to have the inside line for turn number 4. That's a great defense from Devon, as long as he can keep this position into turn number 4. Jerry Van Bussel's going to try the very same thing, but that's a beautiful defense from Devon. Absolutely parks it on the apex to stop Jerry, but Jerry is still got a good exit out of that 4th turn, and now Devon is trying his best to hold that inside line. Jerry, he does get the better exit this time though, and he moves himself up into P1 as they find themselves at turn number 8. That's a brilliant battle there between the top 2, and we are seeing some great racing action unfold. But I now think we're seeing Devon box for new intermediate compound tyres.
Yeah, definitely so. Devon into the pit lane, my word, I'll tell you what. I've seen racing around Austria in the wet, but honestly, this is probably one of the best pieces of driving I think I've ever seen in Austria in the wet. It was brilliant to watch that battle again. Jerry out on top, Schumacher in second, Black Box in third. I mentioned in the comment section there are no cheaters, of course, here in PlayStation. Just pure skill, determination, and effort from these guys. This is what you are seeing in bucket loads out on track tonight. Bradders on the back of Will Murdoch, looks toward the inside line. Will, I think, got through actually on Bradders in the last lap, which we missed. He's through and he's into 5th position on there in the Mercedes, and he has got a lap pressure tyres compared to Bradders there as well. Both on a 3-second penalty, might get it removed towards the end of the race if they're lucky. Black Box though, trying to desperately find a mistake out of Schumacher somewhere. Schumacher is desperately going to have to come in the pit lane though, because if Devon's came in, I think the intention, if the Alfa Romeos are working together, is Schumacher hold up Black Box, because Black Box has been the real eye catcher certainly in this race. He's 1.1 seconds, 1.2 seconds off the back of Jerry, but as soon as he gets out of the slipstream to Schumacher, sorry, as he catches the curb through turn number 8, nearly spins the car around. Schumacher stays out for now. Black Box there in third. I think the game plan from the Alfa Romeos, if they are working together, which I don't think they are, but if they are working together, Schumacher there in second will try and hold up Black Box. But if Black Box makes another mistake like that, he could have kittens coming home, as Kieran and Luca is in the pit lane. Kieran hangs on there in P10 and actually up to P9 as a result of that pit stop. But Jerry splitting Schumacher out of a second. Black Box there in third, and now all of a sudden, Black Box with 65% of ERS is on the back foot.
Yeah, and Schumacher losing that bit of time, that mistake as well. So he's actually lost the slipstream to Jerry Van Bussel of Talent Factory Black Box, who's just been sitting in that slipstream. He's just been sitting in P4 while Devin and Jerry were battling it out for the race lead. He's been patiently waiting, and now he might be looking at a time to pounce and possibly overtake Schumacher. He's got to try and keep up with him, though. 7/10 is the difference between the Alfa Romeo and the Haas car. We're also seeing the fact that Talent Factory Liars, Will Murdoch, Brothers, they're all in this battle for a podium in this race. The top 6 all within a second of one another. So they've all got that power of slipstream. They've all got that opportunity to possibly try and attempt an overtake. But we are now seeing the Jerry Van Bussel we saw at the start of the Grand Prix. As I say that, the fastest lap of the Grand Prix for the McLaren driver. He's pulling away by quite some margin, 1.8 seconds between himself and Schumacher. Could that now be the wear from the intermediate compound tires? 24-lap-old intermediate compound tires. We see yellow flags. That is for the AlphaTauri of QRT Twist as he's heading through the final sector now. But Black Box, you see into turn number 3, getting nice and close and familiar with the rear end of Schumacher. I'm sure that's going to get tiring very quickly. So is Black Box going to go for a move? I think he's biding his time. He's being very patient here. Maybe his aim isn't to win this Grand Prix, but just to secure a good P2. Because, I mean, anyone who wants to try and keep up with Jerry Van Bussel is going to have to try and find something magical now. So I think Black Box is playing this very, very nicely indeed. As we see a mistake there from Schumacher out of turn number 6, he almost loses the car, and this might force Black Box into a move.
He might have to be forced into a move now, definitely. Schumacher there in second, Black Box there in third. Black Box looks to the inside line, probably says to Schumacher, when you come in the pit lane, not this lap, he says. Schumacher there in second, Black Box in third, doing a fantastic job. Black Box though, 94% of ERS. Jerry is on 14%. If Black Box gets clear of Schumacher, he needs to do this move now. Ideally up towards turn number 3. And if he does, he's going to be in a real good fight as Brothers looks to the inside line and Will Murdoch gets the job done sideways out of the corner. But he gets the job done on Will Murdoch, so he's in 5th position. Black Box though needs to go for this move towards the outside line now at turn number 3. Might try and switch it back on the exit. Lars is catching up very quickly as well to the back of these guys. Might be going for the Talent Factory 1, 2, 3 at this stage. But Brothers there, Black Box there, still on the back of Schumacher. Touches the outside line out of turn number 4 at Sloshko. Doesn't want to risk any front wing damage, but Black Box is going to have to be forced into a move. He is losing time above time to Jerry. Jerry is just pulling away, and the more that Black Box stays in behind, the more he's going to lose in terms of the late stage of this race. There will be 10 laps to go after this one's complete. Jerry leads the way, Schumacher there in second, Black Box there in third, and he'll be willing the German in front of him to just get out of the way. Into the pit lane he will come, and Schumacher still is refusing to budge.
He's staying out the 25 laps on the intermediates. I'm not super familiar if a zero stop is possible, but we could see it here today in the form of Schumacher. His tires aren't falling off too badly. He's managing to keep up a decent pace. Obviously, Black Box is starting to put him under a little bit of pressure. The tires for Black Box are just working that little bit better. Schumacher, when you have 10 lap older intermediate compound tires, is very impressive to keep up a pace like this. But with less than 10 laps to go, it could possibly, or 10 laps exactly to go, it could possibly be his strategy to have 0 pit stops in this race. I don't know if he's gonna be able to manage it, but obviously he's going for a risky strategy. He's got every chance at scoring a podium if it works out for him. We'll have to see as the final 10 laps unfold. But Black Box is 4 tenths behind. He's got a massive ERS advantage, and Schumacher is still at that 10% range. So Schumacher, I think in the next couple of laps, he's really going to struggle to defend against the Haas driver. But Jerry Van Bussel, I mean, there's no one in this race who's been on his level today. Not Schumacher, not Devin. He's overtook anyone that got in his way and then pulled away from the field. Not once, but twice now, as he finds himself almost 4 seconds ahead of Schumacher. I mean, it's been a brilliant display from Jerry Van Bussel so far.
It has indeed. Black Box, by the way, back to my point about the Talent Factory 1, 2, 3. I think that's exactly now what they're going for. Because Black Box, if he was wanting this race win, he'd be wanting to go for the move sooner rather than later. He is closing in this time around though on the back of Schumacher. We're getting up towards turn number 3, but Schumacher, because he's been given the leeway as Black Box catches the outside curve through turn number 3, puts the car just out wide slightly. Schumacher now given that breathing room again. What this has done with Schumacher, certainly, and you mentioned it with the nose stop, I think he could be trying to attempt that, but looking at his, well, pretty much every single tyre that he's on, that black line going through the centre grain of the tyre is blistering, and he is blistering on every single tyre out on track. However, though, I did get a trick from Kieran McGinley back in the day in commentary. When the drivers go so deep into the race, they become sort of a dry compound of tyre, and Schumacher is, I think, attempting that. He is trying to take this into a dry compound of tyre, and obviously with all of that wear gone off the tyre, it's a bit like a set of hards, where he is keeping much better pace compared to Black Box and Lars. Of course, Lars and Black Box I don't think want to go anywhere near him. But look, coming out through the final corners, he's quick at the final corner. Schumacher's still got tyre life in those tyres just yet. He's there in second, Black Box there in third, Lars in fourth. But surely somebody in this train is going to have to make a move immediately to try and just counteract this. Is Black Box going to be close enough to the back of Schumacher this time around? Not quite close enough. Jerry out on top though, Schumacher in second, Black Box in third. It's like a game of high-speed poker, and we're in the middle of it.
Yeah, and Black Box is now starting to use his ERS, so you might speak the move into existing. Black Box using quite a bit of it. Dummies to the inside line, forcing Schumacher to defend that line. Schumacher parks it on the apex. Black Box can't make that switchback move work just yet. This is now the battle for P2 because Jerry Van Bussel has well and truly checked out. So he's set another fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He is now 6 seconds in front of Schumacher. I mean, this is absolutely brilliant pace from the McLaren driver. I definitely said to keep an eye on them, and looks like it's come true because Bradders is also pressurizing Talent Factory Lars just a little bit as they head through turn number 9, following him very closely. Breaks a little bit earlier into turn number 10. He doesn't want to rear end his Talent Factory teammate, and he's definitely showing some decent pace now, using a bit of his overtake. Talent Factory Bradders could be looking for a move now on Lars as they head out of turn number 1. Is he going to use his overtake button? Yes, he is. He's got a good exit relative to the AlphaTauri driver, but Lars sees the attack coming, uses a little bit of the ERS of his own, and defends his position coming into turn number 3. But you can see he's made contact with the back of Black Box there. He's rear-ended his Talent Factory teammate. Black Box has now lost a lot of time because of that. Talent Factory Lars deciding it's probably not the best idea to overtake his teammate after doing that. Defending now from Bradders, who also doesn't want to go for attack.
Oh my
yes,
word.
he does, because that's a beautiful switchback move. Lars does not expect it at all, and they are now going to be going side by side through turn number 6. But Lars with the inside line, he's probably going to defend this position. Bradders attempts to hold it around the outside, and he might get it done, you know, just about keeping it within the track limits. He makes the move on his Talent Factory teammate. That is beautiful from the McLaren driver as he gets rear-ended again. That's Will Murdoch, who's hit the back of Talent Factory Lars. There's a bit of chaos now as scrambling for position has well and truly begun.
Oh my god, I'm still in shock in terms of that move. Bradders through and he's into 4th. What an insane, that all opened up from turn number 4 down at Schlossgold. It all opened up from there. He had the audacity, he had the quite frank balls to go around the outside is just one thing, but to go around the outside and turn them right is another thing. Absolutely brilliant. Here comes Lars on the back of Will Murdoch once again. Will Murdoch, though, forced to try and defend to the inside line. I think he's just about going to come out on top in this battle, but my word, Bradders, how on earth did he pull that off? I do not know. He'll be counting until the chickens come home for sure. He's up to 4th, ahead of Will Murdoch on a 3-second penalty. There's also a battle developing further down. Nutu's going for the no-stop, and Kieran battling for P8 and P9. And Kieran makes very light work, I've got to say, of coming to the right hand of the turn of the port Schlossgold. And he's into 8th, and now could Latchak on the back of this train. All of that mistake as well from Blackbox being caught up by Bradders results in, with Lars in the back of Black Box, I should say. Johan there is now on the back of this big old train that spawns from Schumacher in second, downwards. Schumacher, if he does not get a puncture before the end of this race, I'll be very surprised. He is doing a remarkable job though. But it just highlights, I think, the fact the Talent Factory team have got this wrong. Black Box, the instigator really from the Talent Factory team. Schumacher nearly gets caught in the outside curve through turn 1. Black Box could have made this move 5, 6, 7 laps ago. He's refused to, and now look at the position that they're in.
Yeah, Lars losing positions because of that. Obviously, it was his mistake. And, you know, with Black Box, he's obviously got the pace, he's got the ERS, and Lars was showing similar pace, and he was trying to improve upon that. But now Black Box is now trying to go for the move once again. It's on Schumacher, and it's around the outside of turn number 4. Side contact there between the two, but Black Box has the outside line. Has he got the better exit, though? It looks like he has. Schumacher tries to get on the power, but struggles with the wheel spin. Black Box is up into P2 now, and the Haskar finally ahead of the Alfa Romeo of Schumacher. But Talent Factory Lars falling down to P6. That's going to be a big blow to his championship hopes. He's currently the leader.
Oh, Schumacher!
And, oh, there you go. He's gone wide.
He had a huge mistake coming out of turn number 8. He was sideways and everything, and Brothers trying to go all the way around the outside, but the way the car has basically snapped on Schumacher, he's came pretty much right onto the racing line where Brothers was, and Brothers got absolutely catapulted off circuit. There's no damage, I don't think, on the car. Now Lars, as a result, is having to go for the move, and in fact there is damage. Right side end plate damage on the car for Brothers. That is unfortunate. Didn't deserve that at all. Wrong place, wrong time. Will Murdoch, however, by the way, on the back of Schumacher. Schumacher picks up a puncture. Lars is not as quick as Will Murdoch. Will Murdoch could be on for potential podium here, which I think is going to be one to savour as Johan looks to the inside line and Brothers in towards turn number 3, realises he's got front wing damage and gets the job done. So the one man is through and he's into P6, and now Will Murdoch now fighting with Schumacher on the run down towards turn number 4. Schumacher pretty much trying to close the door on the curb in through turn number 4 at Schloss Gold. But in the end, it's just about enough defence from Schumacher to hang on for P3. Will Murdoch in P4. Jerry Allen top, 8.5 seconds clear. Black Box in second. There's going to be at least a TF1-2 if I'm not mistaken. Schumacher there with Will Murdoch third and fourth. Lars there in fifth, but Schumacher, huge mistake this time around on the last lap. And Will Murdoch now looks toward the inside line of turn number 9, which will just be audacious from everything, and he gets the job done. Brilliant stuff by Will Murdoch. That is control, concise racing now from the Brit, and he's into third.
Fantastic move from the Mercedes, and I think the tyre wear is well and truly set in now for Schumacher. Some 33 lap old intermediate compound tyres. It's not that often that you see that. Himself and Nuth are the only drivers have done that. We're now seeing Talent Factory Lars taking advantage of the tyre wear situation as he makes a nice and easy move out of the exit of turn number 1. He is now up into P4, and it looks like your prediction might come right, because as of right now it is a Talent Factory 1, 2, 3 because of Will Murdoch's 3-second time penalty. Johan is now looking for the move on Schumacher, and everyone is looking for the move on Schumacher as he continues to tumble down the order. He holds it around the outside, but no, Johan completely forces him off of the circuit there. Schumacher is not going to be happy whatsoever with that. Johan thought that he got the move done, but Schumacher wasn't giving up that position. Now ERT Kieran is getting a better exit out of turn number 6. He goes for the move into turn number 7. That takes a lot of confidence, but we've seen it multiple times now throughout this Grand Prix. An elegant move there from ERT Kieran to get himself into a top 5 position, which could end up being a top 4 because of Will Murdoch's penalty, which is really going to cost him heavily. Such a shame that he got that. We're now on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, lap 35 of 36. Talent Factory Lars is in a net P3, but his championship rival Devin is in P11. We haven't seen much of him, and it doesn't look like we will, as he's not likely to score points as Johan gets a 3-second time penalty.
He does indeed. Brothers is still trying to defend off Nuth, and Ron is involved in this battle as well. There is a yellow flag that is Ryan at the back of the field, who I think is just letting through the leader of Jerry. Nuth to the inside on the Ferrari, on the back of the Mercedes, on the back of the McLaren, I should say, does realise he's got front wing damage, nearly catapulted into the side of him, in towards turn number 3, gives Ron an opportunity down in towards turn number 4, and here comes the Shizou man on the back of the TF10 man, surely going to try and get this job done. 10 lap pressure tyres should get the traction on the exit of turn number 4. But in the end, Nuth runs him out of road, and the German just about has enough commitment. The Estonian tries to get the job done, but the German is ahead of Estonia and looking for 25th and 26th position in terms of Eurovision Song Contest later on in the year. As now Nuth actually defends, goes for the attack on the inside on of Brothers. Brothers really, really wounded in terms of that car. Right side of the plate damage on the car. Nuth gets the job done. Ron now on the back, 8th and 9th position. Jerry leads the way into the final lap of the race. He threw turn number 1 for the final time. Black Box there in second. Will Murdoch there in third. 1.3 seconds. One mistake from Lars. One mistake from Kieran. As Schumacher, I think, has got a puncture through the final corner. Schumacher does not have a front left puncture for Schumacher. I thought I saw the tyre go a little bit earlier on, but Schumacher there down 11, front left puncture on the car, and above hope, Nuth will be hoping that he can get those tyres somehow to the end as Ron pulls the inside line on turn number 3. Surely going to get the job done, the Estonian, the German, though. What a switchback this is from Nuth. Brilliant stuff on 35-lap-old Inters on a non-stop strategy. Is he going to pull this one off on Ron? Ron in the end, just too good down the straight, and Ron in the end gets 7th. Nuth there in 8th is Rob. Lars as well has made a mistake somewhere. He's fighting with Kieran, gives Will Murdoch a chance possibly to get a podium. Kieran looks the inside line, swipes the right of Lars, and Lars is through back to 5th. Kieran there in 4th. Jerry Van Bussel, though, round the final corner on the run to the line. And an absolute classic in Austria. Jerry Van Bussel takes the race win by an absolute street in the end. Black Box in the end will come home in 2nd. Will Murdoch there will come home, I think, in 3rd on track. Kieran is through the final corner. I think he will finish there in 3rd. Black Box in 2nd. Haas got a 2-3. Kieran there in 3rd. Lars in 4th. In the end, Will Murdoch must only be a 10th of a second. And indeed he was. 700ths of a second off in terms of potential top 4 finish. Johan there in 6th. Ron there in 7th. Nuth, Devon, Bradders are the provisional point scorers. Schumacher in the end has stopped out on track and has reset the track, and he's got a rear left puncture just for good measure as well. He's stuck out on track, and Schumacher is going to get overtaken by Ryan's AI down in 15th position, but Jerry takes the race win. Black Box there in 2nd, and Jerry dominant throughout that second half of the race. Fantastic race from his perspective. But my word, were we treated to an absolute PSGL F2 classic.
We were indeed. I did say at PSGL's PlayStation F2, when you mix it with Austria, you get racecraft and you get overtakes for days. I think we had about an overtake every single lap in that race, and consisting of 36 laps. That's quite a few overtakes. We saw so much battling up and down the field, but at the end of the day, Jerry Van Bussel, he was unstoppable ever since lap 1. It looked like nobody could stop him, and that's exactly how it's played out. 11.5 seconds is his lead over the Haas driver of Talent Factory Black Box. Schumacher at the end of the Grand Prix there, interestingly enough, he got punctures on both of his tyres on the left side of the car, and he wasn't actually able to get going again, so had to end up retiring on track because his car just simply would not move. But it's a double Haas podium. That's one of the teams that we mentioned. Actually, both of the teams that we mentioned dominate the podium, McLaren and Haas at the start of the stream. And with that, McLaren coming out on top at 12.1 is the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and the only person who got anywhere close to that was the likes of ERT Kieran, who was 7/10 away from that. Although VRT Ryan actually managed to set a 12.1, which was just slightly slower by 2/100ths of a second at the end of the Grand Prix. But Jerry Van Bussel on the podium alongside Black Box and Kieran. Lars ends up getting P4 and extending his championship lead. Will Murdoch finishing in P5 by 8/100ths of a second with one Johan in P6, Ron in P7, Nuth in P8, Devon in P9, and Bradders finishing out the points paying positions in P10 with Luca Kart, Twist, Renz finishing the race, and Schumacher, Ryan, Kilcree and Dylan retiring from the session. But that was quite an exciting Grand Prix. Some interesting action and interesting results after 36 laps of wet weather racing. If you had to pick one driver from the 17 that raced from us today, who would you pick for your driver of the day?
I don't think I can pick a driver of the day, to be honest. I think there's many candidates for driver of the day, because the action just overall was absolutely brilliant out on track. If there's one, I think Will Murdoch. Will Murdoch, I think. I know he finished down in the field in, I think, 5th position in the end, but he absolutely carved his way through the field. After that safety car restart, he carved his way through the field. He was up pretty much dead last, coming back in the pit lane, put on a fresh set of intermediate compounder tyres, and has flown nearly to a podium in this race. I think he deserves personally driver of the day. What about you?
I mean, I have to give it to Jerry Van Bussel. There's just such a good argument for this man. He was P6 after the safety car restart on fresh tyres, overtook every single driver in his way, and just for good measure, he ended it off with an 11.5 second lead. It's not too often that you see performances like that, so you really have to appreciate them. And he completes our 4th race winner in 4 races. So there you go, adding another man to the top step of that podium. And yeah, really just race. No one can hold that spot on the top spot of the podium. There's so many people competing for race wins, but there were plenty of other good performances out there today, with a lot of drivers doing exceptionally well and putting on an absolute spectacle for us here in the commentary box. Some great clean racing action, and that was an absolutely brilliant race and one of the best I've seen at Austria.
Certainly one of the best I've seen, certainly in the full wet conditions here in Austria. It was brilliant to watch. Full credit to every single driver at the end of the day. Jerry, by the way, will not be joining for the interviews, which is a shame. He has, however, got WRPC to do, which I think is very, very interesting indeed. Hotfoot basically from PSF2, winning in PSF2 by 11.5 seconds, to doing WRPC in literally the space of about 10 minutes. I think takes some commitment, just comes to show why he was one of the best drivers, of course, out on track. Second best driver out on track, though, in the commentary box here is Mr. Blackbox, and Blackbox, in the end, I honestly thought you were going to go for that race win at the end of the day. Finishing in P2, was that plan for the TF boys to finish 1, 2, 3, 4? And did it nearly work? If he's here.
Hello?
There he is.
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so, yeah, to answer your question, that was pretty much planned. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with the result today. Jerry's very, very fast in the rain, and we knew that overtaking Schumacher was going to be a bit of a risk on track. Jerry somehow managed to get it done, but I stayed behind. I didn't want to risk anything. I didn't want to risk a collision or something like that. So, but yeah, staying behind Jerry was always the plan. I was never going to try and overtake him. As you guys know, people that are watching, me and Jerry are always together on the podium, it seems. So we always have a really good relationship, but yeah, I'm happy to share the podium with one, my best mate, and the other, my wonderful teammate, Yeri.
Yeah, definitely so. And obviously with F1 Esports Challenges around the corner as well, I think it's a really good time to get some form in. Obviously that P2 finish here tonight, and obviously some really good form going forward already this season. Talk us through that safety car, because that safety car period was a little bit mixed up, because we had about 5 drivers, I think, in the end staying out on the older set of inters. You were one of the ones that came in from the front end of the field to come in for a fresh set of inters. Was that fresh set always going to be the gamble, and was it actually the best call at the end of the day? Because we saw what happened with Schumacher picking up 2 punctures at the end of the race.
Well, to be honest, we thought that the guys that stayed out gambled, especially Schumacher, because he was behind his teammate. We thought, why hasn't he boxed? Because he's not going to have to double stack, so it's a perfect opportunity. But he decided not to, and yeah, I got a bit unlucky on the safety car restart. There was a few people, going quite slow on the finish straight, and I got caught out. Brad dived me, and then yeah, it worked out for him. So, but luckily I got some positions back. And I was pretty much too scared to overtake Schumacher, I'll be honest with you. And yeah, I was already like going into this race very, very. I'm feeling very ill at the moment, so I'm already feeling a bit dizzy and things like that. So I wasn't going to risk anything. I was already on the back foot. That's why I wasn't going to challenge Jerry. But it was very crucial to keep Lars behind. Keeping Lars behind was the main aim. It happened, it worked, and then Kieran got onto the podium as well. So it was very good for Haas.
It was very good for Haas indeed, and obviously with the next stages of the season still going on, going forward in towards F1 Esports Challenges, it must be a good amount of form to actually pick up.
Yeah, of course, James. You know how confident I am. I like to make things exciting as well as win races for the viewers, and there will be in the next few years there will be just one face, one name, one champion on PlayStation. That's me. That's Blackbox. That's a guarantee for you, James. You've been commentating on my races for a long time. You know my potential, and I think I can carry this out and be where Rudy and Legend are by the time 2024 comes around.
Mark this day, 27th of March 2023, at exactly 22 minutes past 8. Blackbox is going to be the face of PS Platform. Certainly going forward, I think definitely into the new game. Connell, haven't forgot about you. Any questions?
I think one question could be, do you see yourself being the face of this PSGL PlayStation F2? Because obviously now after this result, you're going to be in the top 2 in the championship, battling it out with Talent Factory Lars. It's going to be you two in top 2 battling for that championship. Do you think now that we're getting closer to that halfway stage of the season that you see yourself possibly becoming the champion here in this division?
So I think I'll probably be the first person to break the curse of only having one winner a different winner every race. I think I'll break that going into next week, but we'll have to see. I need to just improve on the quali. Today's quali was terrible, and that was my downfall today. We changed the setup a little bit for the rain, but it was unacceptable. I was doing terrible lap times in quali. A bit of like I said, a bit of sickness, and my focus wasn't too great. But yeah, I think I can win the championship easily. Not easily, but I can I can win it. Let's just keep it at that. I don't want to sound too confident, too cocky, but yeah, I think I can win it.
There you go, confident and humble, your possible new championship winner. Well, I wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much.
And final question, Blackbox, just before you hop footed, of course, a change in the calendar means it's Bahrain next week. How do you think you're going to get on around there?
We've already been doing a lot of practice. What I have for Bahrain, because we assumed it's on the challenges calendar, even though it keeps getting changed. But yeah, I think we've got some good pace. Ryan, our engineer, our setup man, he's putting in a shift and making sure we get the best setups possible. And yeah, I think you'll probably see the TF guys near the top again. We've got really talented drivers, and yeah, hopefully there's no crashes between us next week. That's the only aim.
Yeah, and for one stage as well, I certainly thought it was going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 between the TF boys at that stage of the race as well, which is a shame because I'm sure there were a lot of guys supporting you, of course, there in the chat. But I'm going to let you go and enjoy evening.
Thank you very much, James. You too.
You are very welcome indeed, and we can now speak to the man who finished in P3. It is Mr. ERT Kieran, and Kieran, at the end of the day, you're making a real habit, I think, of coming onto the podium. Of course, third 2 weeks ago in France, third once again here in Austria. Must be very happy.
Yeah, to follow on from last week, last week wasn't great. This week was a lot better. I think pace was definitely there. Just a shame that off the safety car restart, I had probably too much confidence, and then that obviously caused a bit of issues throughout the race because I dropped quite a bit, losing about 10 seconds because of that spin. But I can't complain as I came back from that. So
yeah, it was fantastic as well to watch because you, I think, were down towards the back end of the field with Will Murdoch, and he obviously made his way through the field. I think at one stage I picked you up in P13, P14, I think, in that race. So to come from there to finish in P3, you've done a remarkable job.
yeah, I mean, for me it was literally I knew I had probably top 3 pace, pure pace, in the wet, up there, bare minimum. It was literally just trying to keep it out, and then turn 3 was just really bad for me the whole race. I could find myself braking early on one lap and not making the corner that I could brake 20 meters later the next lap and make the corner. So I think turn 3 was the downfall for me, but other than that, the race was really good. I had a lot of confidence.
It was as well, and continue our EML Premier Division, Premier 2 champion, I should say, Drivers Champion, I should say, with that form, of course, from EML, with the form, of course, from PSGL. What's your overall goal for the rest of the season?
Stop bottling qualifying, and then hopefully drag better results in, because I seem to have a lot better race pace than I do quali pace, but I can just never get quali right, no matter how good my quali pace looks.
Yeah, you were going the right way about it. I mean, 2 third positions here in PSGL, PSF2. Keep working at it because you have got much more potential than what I think you even lead on to, and I think it's fantastic to watch, certainly from mine and Connell's perspective as well. And speaking of the Irishman, any questions?
I do have one question. Obviously, you have one teammate who's very confident that he can be the champion here in PSGL F2. Do you see yourself maybe challenging with him? And if so, maybe you could be challenging for that constructor's title also, and that would be quite the domination from yourself and Black Box.
I think Black Box needs to calm down his ego a little bit. I love him to pieces, but maybe a little bit tone it down. And then I think constructors we have in the bag, but I don't have enough confidence in myself to say that I can be anywhere near the top in the drivers. But we'll see. Maybe we'll have better races like we had today, and depending on how that goes, then maybe I can end up in the fight. But right now, I don't think that's a possibility.
Well, 2 podiums in a row. You never know what could happen. It's a long season ahead of us, and I wish you the best of luck for it.
Thank you very much.
And that is all from me as well. Go and enjoy your evening, Kevin.
Thank you.
You are very welcome indeed. As we now don't move on to the man who finished. Why am I thinking we're interviewing the man who finished in P4? That ends the interviews for tonight here in PSGL F2. Delighted, of course, to take you through the action here, of course, in Austria. I'm not going to show my face because A, I'm talking in the dark, and B, I can't be bothered to go onto the other side of my room, put my light on, and you can see my frizzy hair again. But what we can show you, of course, is the Season 33 calendar. As I mentioned there, a change up in the calendar because I think Bahrain is going to be on the F1 Esports Challengers calendar, which is around about where it was meant to be, the 20th to the 24th of April. That means now we get Bahrain earlier. So instead of Azerbaijan next week, it is Bahrain. And Connell, coming across to you, it is one of those tracks where we should see a lot of overtaking, but also there's a lot of tyre wear and a lot of tyre management involved in that race as well. What are we going to see in Bahrain, and who potentially is going to come out on top?
Yeah, I think in Bahrain it's an interesting circuit. You see quite a few overtakes, but you also see long DRS trains and every single driver thinking so hard about that strategy. How can they make it work? Is the undercut the right way to go? How are safety cars going to spice it up? I think the strategy is going to be a massive thing, and it's going to take a lot of thinking on your feet to do well in that race. And I think about drivers doing well. Well, Jerry Van Bussel, I mean, this is 2 weeks in a row now where he's found excellent pace in himself. In France, obviously, not the result that he would have wanted with that puncture, although he would have gotten a podium without it. And now getting a race win here in Austria by 11.5 seconds. Jerry Van Bussel, I think he's a big shout for this race, for the race win or a podium even. And I also think his teammate Brothers, I really would like to see him up because that form that we saw in Spain, and obviously being a future F1 Esports Challengers driver, I'd love to see him back up there. But recently, he's been struggling so heavily, and we've seen it again for the 3rd week in a row. And yeah, it's super disappointing to see, but I'd love to see him bounce back to form. Also, the 2 Haas drivers, I'm sure they'll definitely be up there in that fight for the top 5. But Tom Factory Lars and Devin, I think after this race weekend, they'll need to bounce back to form, especially Devin, who finished outside of the top 10 there. He'll be looking to get himself back, hopefully, onto the podium so he can continue to fight for this championship.
Yeah, Bahrain, I think, is certainly going to be a track from the latter there. Devon, I think, is absolutely made for that track, so do not be surprised if he's towards the top end of the field. Bookmark this clip for next week, because if he wins, I told you so. I told you so. But we are going to end it off here, of course. A big thank you to Mr. Connell Moore for joining me in the commentary box, as always, on this fine Monday evening. More action to come. PSGL F1 is currently live, and what I can do is literally inform you what is going on in PSGL F1 right now. That is when I decide to find the stream, which is there. No, that's F3. That's Mr. Evan Dalton. There is F1. And there's an advert playing, so bear with me. But apparently the weather is dry, and then maybe 1 to 2 laps of rain towards the end of the race. And currently, Marketer's out on top, Tom in 2nd, Max there in 3rd. And like F2, it is full intermediate conditions at the start of the race. I'm not sure what the TNR man was on about in the comment section, but already Marketer's out on top, Tom in 2nd, Max there in 3rd, Stefano Jensen, Rowan and Jeroen all getting caught up in a separate incident through the first stages of that race. And we are going to take you there, of course, right now when we end off this stream. But a big thank you to everyone that tuned in. If you did like that stream, like, comment, subscribe, tick that notification bell, of course, if you're brand new to the channel. We are going to see you next week, of course, in Bahrain from the desert. And until then, I've been James Head. He's been Connor Moore. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.